I believe creation is fractal. Creation is what made us. And so we, as forms of creation, continue to create and create new paradigms, create new forms of art, create new conversations, create all this stuff. And I don't know, I feel like that's the dharma of the human experience, is to continue the fractal of creation.
Circuits of electromagnetic exchange bind us together as one living ocean of psychosensory, co-creative space-time coordinates. We are the amalgamation of various visible and invisible energy systems that together generates the human hologram. One truth, your truth.
Hey, it's Mikeadelic, new episode. I'm Mike Brancatelli, you're you. That was Matt Xian in the intro, Timewheel, Xian Archive Podcast. My brother Matt Xian. Always love chatting with Matt. This episode, you guys are really going to dig it. We go all sorts of fractally creation places. And then that track was One Truth by Savage, spelled with a J at the end, S-A-V-E-J. Shout out to him. Thank you so much for that dope-ass track. His link to his Spotify is in the show notes, so description, all the things that you need. I don't want to tell you guys all this rambly stuff and like you're going to fast forward it anyway. You know, these intros are tricky because it's like, it's a necessity as an independent little podcast over here trying to make headway with some giants out there, trying to bring cool conversations to the forefront, get more people interested in the things that we're talking about over here. I have to tell you guys to go and show support for the show. Leave 5-star ratings and reviews on Apple Podcasts. That helps boost us up in the algorithm. Consider joining the Patreon. For $5 a month, you get early release episodes, special bonus episodes, Patreon-only episodes, and the Inner Sanctum private Discord server where we're building a little Mikeadelic community of people from all around the world chatting and sharing stories and offering support and links and just cool conversations and connecting with dope human beings. Shout out to all of you beautiful, amazing people who are patrons and Discord Inner Sanctum members. Also, check out the sponsors, Element Kombucha, best kombucha, hands down. I'm a booch aficionado. I guess, connoisseur. I love kombucha, and I've had some good ones, but Element Kombucha is by far the best. Love it, absolutely love it. Put in the promo code Mike11, get 11% off. Get yourself some beautiful booch from Element Kombucha, and check out Being True to You and Fungi Academy. Also, shout out to Student Loan Tutor, and yeah, that's really it. Stay tuned for like other offerings and stuff. I got another podcast out that I hosted with my brother Bill Burns. We have been hosting men's group experiences together for the past like 6 months or so. And we had that big retreat called Permission at the end of August. It was a huge success, absolutely epic. So much transformation and healing and love and community and brotherhood, celebration, bonding, just joys of connecting and collaborating and being real and raw and authentic with fellow men out there that are also looking for the same thing. Getting primal, creating a safe container to allow ourselves to get deeply in touch with our most basic primal masculine things, the qualities, life, way of being. It feels so good to do that. So we got an epic retreat coming up in Boulder, Colorado on December 17th to the 19th called Inward, a Primal Masculine Journey. And please check that out. The link is in the show notes, show description. All the links are in the show notes, show description. Show description. I don't know whatever it is. Show notes, show description. The place wherever you listen to your podcast, and then there's like the information, links, and the follow, and the this and that. So all the ways that you can show your love and support and get involved and join this community that we're building, and get more info and reach out to me. I'm happy to chat with you guys all the time, always. And yeah, without further ado, let's get into this awesome, epic fractal creation conversation with the infinite, eternal being that is the Matt Xian archive. I don't know. I tried to make that kind of like flow a little bit there. I think I got a little choppy, but you know what I'm saying. Matt Xian, he's my dog. He's my homie. And we had a great chat. Check it out. Here it is.
Pure magic, my friend. May the space be blessed.
So
time is such a funny thing, man. Like I oftentimes will say to people, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. And I don't know if you can relate to this or not, but for me, time moves so much faster in the morning. Like it seems to move quicker in the morning. I wake up in the morning and my whole conception of time is different. I'm like, okay, cool. I got to be at the door in 5 minutes. I got enough time to do this, to do that.
Right.
And then before I know it, it's there.
Right.
Why do you think that is?
It's just probably more in your rhythm. I think everyone has a rhythm, and some people, they get that experience, in the afternoon and at night. Everyone's different for sure. But I tend to find the morning hours way more productive for myself. And time does fly, and I'm able to get a lot more done. It's almost like hacking time, in my opinion, like getting up early before you'd normally get up. In a sense of like if you were to just wake up when you wake up, if you're actually able to push your alarm 1, 2, 3 hours earlier than when you would normally wake up. So let's just call it 6 a.m. instead of 8, those 2 hours, I get more done in those 2 hours than I would in like 6 hours waking up and kind of going about the day slow. I don't know. I tend to just really milk those morning hours and get a lot more done.
Yeah, you're an early morning guy and you're a get stuff done in the morning guy. I find that to be so difficult for me because my brain doesn't work.
Well, caffeine is helping me.
Oh yeah, true.
I get a
But you know
triple
what?
shot every morning, triple shot of espresso.
So I was at this retreat a couple weeks ago, and one of the days we had to wake up and be ready to go by 6.
Mm-hmm.
And at 6, we circled up, we met, we talked. Then we had a workout. Then after the workout, we did an ice bath and then a sauna. And then we did another workshop. And then by the time it was, we ate breakfast somewhere in there, and then we did something else. And then by the time it was lunch, it had felt like I was like, wow, I can't believe we did all that shit. And then like later on that day,
Mm-hmm.
I was like, man, like this day has felt like 4 days in one, you know?
Yeah.
Because there's something to like getting up in the morning and getting a lot of shit done early.
Yeah.
Then you feel like you've gotten it out of the way. There's something there with that. I just need to figure out a way for my brain to function better in the morning. I hate waking up to an alarm clock. You wake up to an alarm clock?
On occasion I do. Yeah. Sometimes my body just wakes me up. I'm a very I have no problem getting to sleep, but I also wake up easily, and when I'm up, I'm up. Like it's hard for me to like wake up and then go back to sleep. Even if sometimes I'll go to bed at, 11 p.m. and then wake up at 4 or 5, and I'll be there and I'll be like, I kind of want to go back to sleep, but my body just won't let me. It's just like sitting there. I'm like, well, I better just get up then if I'm just going to sit here awake. You know what I mean? So
yeah, I remember I read this book by author Mel Robbins. I forget. I think it was called like the 5-second trick or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
She basically, her basic thesis is, it's amazing how these people turn these things into books too, by the way. It's great.
Mm-hmm.
It's because like, you could boil it down into basically this. It's like, we have this like 5-second window to do the thing or not do the thing. Like we can convince ourselves to not do the thing. But if we switch that, we only have 5 seconds to make that switch.
Mm-hmm.
And when you make that switch within 5 seconds, then you're just like, you're cruising. You're better off. And then in the book, she talks about how when you wake up to an alarm, if you hit the snooze button and go back to sleep, you know how that time always feels like it was nothing?
Yes.
She says that it's actually worse to do that. It's better to just wake up and go through the day rather than going snooze, because you interrupt, your body goes back to like the state of REM sleep that you're in.
Right.
And then when you wake up like 20 minutes later or whatever, it's like too difficult to then get back. It's like, it's almost like your body's like, wait a second, I thought we were going back to sleep. What the fuck are we doing? We're waking up again. So it like doesn't know what to do. And then she says that you wind up more tired. I've definitely experienced that.
I would agree based on my personal experience. And as well, there's a similar thing about naps with that as well. There's actually, I think there's 2 times to nap, and it's 10 minutes and it's like 40 minutes. And it should be either of those two, because napping for an hour or two actually does the same thing. It puts you way more sleepy when you wake up. And even though you like supposedly got rest, like you should be more energized, you're not. But if you were to nap, quote unquote, for just 10 minutes, you actually do get more energized. And I've noticed that works for me as well. But a lot of what you just said actually resonates with a book that the Sheath team and myself are reading actually right now, called Getting Things Done. And one of the most profound, lessons in the book is called the 2-minute rule. And it reminded me a lot of your 5-second rule right there, which is when a thing comes up in your consciousness as something that you need to do, if you know it'll take you less than 2 minutes to do, you should do it right when it comes up. Because stacking repeatedly things that you know you should do, but I'll do it later. I know I should do that, but I'll do it later. I know I should do that, but I'll do it later. When you stack up 10, 20, 50 of these things, your whole system gets bogged down. Essentially, your RAM is being used up, and you get into like a nasty downward spiral of productivity, where you can never do anything now because you're so backlogged that like you're just overwhelmed, more or less. And even if you won't admit it to yourself, your system is overwhelmed. And you don't know why. You're just not in the mood to create or to do whatever. It's because your body is literally like, yo, you have like 900 things you said you'd do later that you haven't done yet. So what this dude's trying to get you to do is there's a couple of lessons in the book, but this is a very powerful one. If a thing comes up and it'll take you 2 minutes, just do it now. You know what I mean? Like, for example, I need to send off a text. I need to hit up Mike, right? It's like, I'll hit up Mike in a few hours. Does it take that long to hit you up? It takes 10, 20 seconds. Open the phone, send the message, boom. It's done. It's off my mental palette. Now I can wait for your response and we'll go. Like, you need to take out the trash. What does that take? A minute? Right. So as these things come up, if you're able to do them, you actually get into a sprint or a spree, and you're enjoying how much you're getting done, that it puts you on a high and you get even more done. So it's just about like kickstarting that. You know what I mean?
That makes a lot of sense. Like all the people that I've worked with that are like CEOs or leaders, creators, they always do things like right away and quickly, and like take action. Like I was out to dinner with a guy last night, and I was telling him about this thing that I have for my plants called a 3-way meter, where you put it in the soil and it tells you like how much light the plant is getting and if it needs water or whatever. I'm like, it's so good because I have a lot of plants now and I want to take good care of them. And he's like, oh wow, that's really cool. I never heard of that before. And then he just bought it immediately. Like he just like went and he's like, oh, just ordered it. Yep. It's like the take action approach to exactly what you're saying. If it takes less than 2 minutes, like firing off an email. One of my first jobs that I ever worked in New York, I was working sales, and my boss like taught me how to write good emails to CEOs and leaders. Because he's like, dude, he's like, I get emails, if it's longer than like, if it's not right to the point of like what they want, like I just don't even look at it. So like I would see all these people, and then like in jobs in the future too, I would see all these people writing like, hello, I hope this email reaches you well today. I hope you're doing well. Like I was looking at your blah, 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 and I was wondering da, da, da. And then, it's like this really tight, rigid, formal thing. And he's like, dude, he's like, you could literally shoot me an email that doesn't even have to be like punctuated well or grammatically correct. As long as it tells me what you want from me, I'm 1,000 times more likely to respond to you. Right. So I would just start shooting off emails that would literally say like half the thing that I wanted in the subject line. Right. And then the rest of the email would just be like, when can we like meet for this? And I would get so many responses. Yeah. And I noticed that now too. Like in the past, I used to be like, oh man, I got to hit up Matt. Like, oh, what am I going to say to Matt? Like, oh man, like I kind of want to say something like really good, or I want to find like a cool GIF that like, like, or whatever. And now I'm just like, just do the thing. Just do that. What do you want? What do you want? Cause like we have to, like, why waste time on that? Now we get to waste time here on the podcast and dive in deep and talk about all kinds of things. But like, if I just want to ask you a question or I need something from you, just boom, shoot off the text.
It's funny how, I know exactly what you're saying. And it's funny how relationships, once they're like in a flow and in a lock, like the way, we have a solid, collaboration and friendship going, then it can be more of that like quick, direct thing. But when you're first starting out making a new friend, to be, overly direct and not friendly, you know what I mean? It doesn't really work. So it's funny how at the beginning of building relationships, there's a lot more attention of this. How are you today? These types of things. And then later on, we're like, hey bro, how's the sponsorships going? Or whatever. So it's just funny.
For sure. Yeah. Like reaching out to someone to be a guest on the podcast. Like especially if it's someone that I really admire and respect. I'm way better at it now, but in the past, like, dude, I've been trying to get Duncan Trussell on the show, like for a while. I'd love to talk to that guy. Yeah. And, like I remember in the past, like I wrote him like a huge like email, like paragraphs, because it was like, I want to say all the cool, like the right things. I want him to know that like we have a connection and that like we should talk and why we should talk because of this and because of that. And then like this was like years ago, like probably even like right when I started Mycadelic. And then now, like since then, I get those emails. So I know how it is. And I'm like, oh dude, like I would love to like connect with you and stuff, but like my brain shuts off when I have 2 pages of an email. Right. And I get to it, but I don't get to it till later on because it takes longer than 2 minutes,
No, 100%. Yeah, I've learned that exact thing as well as someone who used to reach out to music blogs, record labels, and these types of things before we had our own. And would do that same thing. I would put like, this is why my music means so much to me, and please listen to it. And I love you because of this, this, and this that you did, and never get any responses. And I would kind of be like, bummer, I'm just going to make my own label then. And, kind of thank God that
Yeah.
happened, because it worked out really well for me. But yeah, now that I'm in that seat of receiving the messages, I kind of know exactly what you mean, where it's kind of just like, where's the SoundCloud link? I need that more than anything, and I need to hear it, right? Because some people will send me, I would rather, again, just see, hey, I found Timewheel through XYZ. I enjoy this, and listen to this. What do you think? Than a lot of words, and then I have to respond to ask for the music, that type of thing,
And it's an art to try and like condense it down into the main points that you're trying to hit.
Mm-hmm.
And I also understand, because I think that a lot of us, especially for people that we admire and respect that we don't know, people that, like, for example, I used to listen to, I'll just use Duncan again. Like, I used to listen to his podcast all the time, and I felt like, man, like I fucking I resonate so much with this dude. Like I connect so much with this guy. And there's this sense of wanting to have a community with these people that we hear, but we don't know. And we feel like we know them, and we feel like we connect with them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like this like nervousness. Like I always say that I'm like a teenage girl that like hopes like the guy will call, So, it's like, oh man, I hope the message is like good. I hope, and now it's just kind of like, I understand it a little bit more, a little differently, but still it is like, you still get those like feelings of like, I sent them a message, like, why didn't they respond? Like, what happened? Is there a problem? Like, can we, I don't know. I don't know what's going on. And, and it really only happens with people that I'm really close with, or like people that are idols and heroes of mine.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, it's almost like being a fanboy, and I totally get it.
Right.
And I'm a fanboy of many people as well, where it's just like, damn, your work is so exciting to me and intriguing, and I would love to build and hang out and do mushrooms with this guy, but like he's too busy to do mushrooms with me. You know what I mean? It's funny, but
who do you fanboy out most? Like, who would be like your top few people that you would just be fucking thrilled to hang out with?
Dude, for sure, Joe Rogan. Holy shit.
Yeah.
That'd be
totally
amazing. I'm a big fan of Eric Godsey, and I've actually been able to hang out with him a few times, which is pretty dope. I've been on his podcast. I love Tim Ferriss. He's a big kind of idol in the entrepreneur world, psychedelically tuned in type of dude. Let's see who else we got. I really actually love Leo from actualize.org.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's been interesting recently. I didn't hear him for a very long time until after I had done 5-MeO DMT, and he speaks a lot about 5-MeO. That's one of the main medicines that he makes use of in his consciousness explorations. And since discovering that molecule and him on YouTube, I've probably heard like 50 hours of his work. So I definitely look up to him as well. But yeah, these types of people who are seemingly on a similar path, who we could learn from, vibe with, maybe offer some of our own juice to what they're doing, and maybe it benefits them, that type of thing. People that inspire me are definitely like in the psychedelic field, but also like are in the in a wellness practice, and also just like being successful. You know what I mean? Like that they're able to do what they want to do for a living and not work a job that they don't want to work.
Yeah, totally. Were you going to say something else there? I kind of cut you off with that, but
no. I think. Well, what about you? Who are some of your icons, idols, and whatnot?
Rogan, definitely. I mean, like I just, I feel a kinship with him.
Yeah.
And he just seems like what he is. you know?
Mhm.
Like he's just that guy. That's who he is. He doesn't have like a different persona or something. You're like, oh man, this guy's an asshole in real life. Like,
Mhm.
um, and I would say Duncan.
Yeah.
I just think that like I just love the way his mind works and how he creates and how he puts the humor and everything and
Yeah.
makes it weird and crazy, and it's so good.
Yes.
And I would say, fuck, who else? Maybe Douglas Rushkoff.
Okay.
I love his where he's like another guy that like I would love to have on the show, and I messaged him a couple times, and it just like like I don't know, I could probably still pester him again, but he's just brilliant, man. I mean, I would also say David Graeber, but he passed away this past year, and he's like one of my heroes as well. Just anarchist, anthropologist, philosopher, brilliant
R.I.P.
guy.
Well, you talking about the podcast is actually a great kind of segue, because by having a platform, we actually have a reason to talk to some of these people, right? Because, just saying I want to get coffee with someone, like that, they're too busy to maybe get coffee. But if there's a podcast and there's something in it for them and they get to share their message with a new community, I found that I've been able to interview and talk to people that, I wouldn't otherwise. So
Sure.
I don't know. I think that that's one of the beauties of having an art form that we're at home in, and that could be music. Like if you're a musician, you could collaborate with another musician you love. Like maybe you offer a commission for them to remix one of your tracks, and because it's like there's this work involved, this like co manifestation going on. Like there's more of an interest from the other party as to want to do something with you, because there's a platform, there's an art form involved in the collaboration, and not just let's meet for coffee, because some of these people are super busy and they barely can keep up with their own stuff, let alone what you expect from them, so.
For sure. Yeah. I was just thinking like we should pay Michael Phillip to remix this podcast that we're doing right now. And he could just throw in like little like, wow, that is technodelic, or like, things like his little
Wonder Dipper drops,
idioms and phrases.
Wonder Dipper.
Yeah. Wonder Dipper drops. Like that's wonderlicious.
Yes. That's funny.
Dude, this podcast remixed by Third Eye Drops is sick.
Yeah, let's just change the art form.
Let's
drop a podcast album with remixers from other podcasters.
Yeah, that we could do whatever we want. There's no rules in this game.
Totally. That's funny.
Yeah, dude. Well, gotta give a shout out to one of the best new sponsors that we have, Element Kombucha, which is just like, dude, this kombucha I crushed all of it. Everything they sent me, I drank it. I wish I still had some.
Yeah.
It's so good, man. It's I like it. It's the flavors are amazing. Like the mountain oolong is probably my favorite.
Yeah.
I love that one. And the other one that's the CBD one is nice.
Yeah, summer vibes.
Yeah. The green is really refreshing, but it's like, you ever get a kombucha and it's you open it up and it's just like you're like swallowing all these bubbles and you're like fizzing everywhere. It's like you can't even swallow it. It like hurts. Element is like smooth, man.
Yeah, it's kind of
smooth.
It's kind of more like juice,
Yeah, but it has like the perfect amount of bubbles.
Yes,
and it's just, I love kombucha, man. I'm just like so happy that they're crafting these amazing concoctions. So
yes,
put in the code Mike11, get 11% off this really dope kombucha.
Yes.
It's just the best if you're a kombucha fan. And trust me, Brew Doctor did a little sponsorship with Mike Delic not too long ago. They're good. Rowdy Kombucha, I like them too. There's a couple of other kombuchas, but by far Element is like in a class of its own. It's really, it's my favorite one now. Like it's just like I don't even want to drink anything else. It's just so fucking good.
I could share some pretty interesting stuff about the founder as well.
Oh yeah, please do.
Yeah, his name's Tima, and how I came to know Tima is he actually resides at one of the local art studios in downtown San Antonio as a woodworker, who also collaborates with our good friend Payson Jones, aka The Art of Waking Up. He's an amazing visionary artist, and they are both very psychedelic plant medicine type dudes. I know Tima's done ayahuasca, I think tens of times. He's always working with mapacho. Every time I see him, he's got mapacho. And yeah, just very like cool, grounded guy. He spins fire. He's got a great art studio. They're doing this Breath of the Serpent, I believe it's called. Wood snake installation, pretty much like something you'd see at Burning Man. And they're premiering it at Astronax in Austin, which is a music and arts festival in early November, which I'm actually DJing at, which is going to be dope. And then they're also going to premiere it at Luminaria, which is in San Antonio, Texas. And again, it's another music and arts festival. So he and Tima and Payson, built this amazing serpent. It's like, I don't know, 50 feet long or something, made out of wood, and you can walk through it. And it's pretty much a house too. So you can, like, I'm sure they on the premiere, they're going to have like bean bags and carpets and places to chill and vibe. I'm at like kind of like at the place where we went and where you were in that tea tent.
Yes.
At Unison.
Yeah.
It'd be like that tea tent if it was a sculpture.
Nice.
You know what I mean? So yeah, how did you enjoy that fest? Oh yeah, shout out to Tima, Element Kombucha, much love. Thank you for sponsoring the Timewheel Podcast Network. But I wanted to say, how did you enjoy Unison? Because it was cool hanging with you there.
I loved hanging with you there. It was so fun. You and Steven and everybody else that was there, the Austin crew, the Denver crew. We got a little Santa Fe crew in the house too.
Yeah.
And it was so fun, man. It was like one of my favorite festivals, I think like it wasn't so much about the big name artists that were there. Like Perenge killed it. Like Equanimous, I had him on the show yesterday.
Oh, wow.
Dope dude. I loved his set. Other people too, but the festival element is the element where I feel most alive in.
Yeah.
Like, or the modality I feel most alive in, because I feel so free, and they set the conditions for us to feel free. No lines, no like people checking your bags or things like that. Everything was free flowing. And it was just like, I had this moment, I'm fucking high on LSD, sitting in like waist up in the water, just big ass smile on my face with a joint in the water, listening to the beach stage. I like look up, the sun is shining, people are dancing, women are naked, dancing on the paddle board, like the big Fiesta paddle board.
Yep.
The beats are fire, friends are everywhere. And then I see somebody on a zip line, just zip line right into the river and drop in. I'm like, this is paradise, man.
It is. It was
like,
paradise.
This is paradise. Like, this is awesome.
It absolutely was paradise. That was actually my first camping festival I've ever been to.
Oh, sick, man.
So I had never stayed for 3 days at a festival. I've only ever been to a festival for one day, and then we leave the night of, or maybe we sleep there and then leave the next morning.
Wow.
So I loved it. I felt such a sense of community. I was really like, this is the Instagram feed for real though, right? The people that we follow on Instagram, and when we're at home and we're not at a festival, it's like they're all here and you see them in person. And those interactions are so much more potent and so much more special than the Instagram verse, you know what I mean? Because, we all get sucked into that, and it's part of marketing and all this and that. But I don't know. I really enjoy the in-person interactions. And it's funny as well, like we kept walking to your tent over and over to try and find you too. And I thought that was cool how it felt almost like the neighborhood used to feel when you were a little kid, when you would just walk to your friend's house and see if they're available, and instead of calling, because now it's always like you got to call and text and I'm here. Like they just text you, I'm here these days. They don't even knock on your door. You know what I mean? It's all through the phone.
I do that all the time.
Right. So to get to walk to your tent and find you is funny. It's like, oh, we found you. Or someone would be at your tent and be like, oh, he went that way. And then we would kind of follow the trail. And we actually kept asking people about you like the whole time. We were like, have you seen Mycadelic? Have you seen Mycadelic to people? And they loved the question. They loved it. They're like, Mycadelic, he sounds awesome. I was like, who is he? And I was like, oh, you don't know him? He's the king. He's the podcast king.
The king.
That shit was awesome.
Yeah, it felt really good. Big shout out to Amaret and Eric and anybody else that I'm forgetting that I saw there. Like, it was really cool for people to just be like, hey, are you Mike Brancatelli? And I was like, I am. They're like, oh, cool, I listen to your podcast. I'm like, all right, awesome. Like, I love that, like, our people were there, like it felt like our people, like, and because it was so free, because there were copious amounts of psychedelics, because the music was such medicine too.
Yes, it was.
It was intentional. Oh, Sam from Infinity Hood, shout out to Sam, got to cop some dope gear and got to hang out with him. He's an awesome dude, making just amazing clothes from the remnants of fast fashion.
Yeah.
And yeah, he told me, I completely blew my mind. He said that, like, fast fashion is one of the biggest contributors to, like, killing the planet, basically.
What is that fast fashion?
It's like H&M and like Target, whatever, like all these places that just like whip up clothes. He said that the seasons now for these fast fashion companies are 2 weeks. So it's like,
so then they throw everything out.
And then they throw everything out.
Yeah,
So all the stuff that they throw out is the stuff that he goes and finds and uses to make his clothes.
Got it.
But it's like, it's apparently it's just really taking a toll on the earth.
Yes.
And resources and stuff. And he's like they have early fall and late fall, early winter and middle winter and late winter and all this stuff. And I'm like, yeah, that is true. You always see new shit coming out. But the problem with it is a lot of it isn't really good quality, because they're just trying to pump it out so quick, I miss good quality.
I saw a
good
meme,
quality things,
like an informative meme, kind of like an Earth-based, let's save the Earth type message meme that had showed Forever 21 throwing out like tons and tons of clothing that could honestly have been donated to homeless people or something like that, and it just went in the trash. And it definitely hurts your heart a little bit to see that all that clothing, could be used, and it's just going into the trash for the New York City, dump to collect, more or less. And that's a weird thing, but I have been tuning in more to being conscious about clothing. For example, we went and saw the wolves in Woodland Park. There's like a wolf park.
Oh,
and
cool.
The whole time they were telling us how messed up the fur industry is, both for foxes and wolves and everything. And they were pretty much like, don't support people selling fur. If you see fur inside of a shop, literally tell the front desk you're not going to be shopping there until they get rid of their fur. And I kind of resonate, because these are endangered animals. These are sacred animals, and we shouldn't be killing them just to wear dope shit. You know what I mean? So it's like, just get the like fake fur if you love the look of fur. And I totally get it. It looks dope, but don't support that fur industry and that are like out there like killing dogs and shit. That's not cool.
Yeah, totally. Well, I mean, you bring up such a great point. I mean, it's like a lot of times I feel like we could feel hopelessness or like we're victims to this machine that just keeps marching forward. But really, I mean, like when you become aware of things, if you're interested to become aware of things, then you could start making choices, and just simply those choices of saying no, not buying stuff, that decreases the demand for that thing. And then the producers of that thing are going to be like, oh shit, like nobody's buying our shit anymore. What are we going to do?
Right.
Well, what are they buying? Oh, they're buying that faux fur like stuff. Okay, well, maybe let's make that,
Right.
We'll make it really good.
Yep.
I mean, look at like how like organic food and everything has come so mainstream. Like everywhere you go now, they have healthy organic options, fresh, local.
Right.
And that wasn't a thing. Like, I mean, even just 10 years ago, it was like just starting to become a thing 10 years ago. People would make fun of you if you were like, oh, I have to have like an organic kale smoothie. It's like, yeah, dude, like I don't want to eat poison. Like I don't want to put poison in my body.
They almost kind of shame you for paying more too. Like, cause I worked at the grocery store. So I would see the almost like, why are you buying like this super expensive version of the broccoli? You could get triple the broccoli for the same price, but it's the non-organic, like they'd be like, oh, that's too expensive. And it's funny how what we will spend our money on and what we won't. And like some of the most important stuff, like your health, like what you put into your body, your temple, you will not want to spend money on, but you want to spend money on external things like a car, and this is the real car. This is the important car right here. The other car is going back on the shelf, it's going to the dump. This one, it's got to carry you through 100 years on this earth, and you don't invest in it by eating better stuff, by paying a little more. You know what I mean? It's so interesting how backwards things can be sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, food, like I talked about this actually with Equanimous, who I recorded a podcast with the other day. And, he's very passionate about this. And I always like to hear, he's like, dude, he's like Trader Joe's, even Trader Joe's isn't good. I was like, what? No, not my Trader Joe's, not my little TJ's.
Right.
I sound like Aziz when I did it. Oh no, not TJ's, man. But like, yeah, because they're the packaging, they all trick you into thinking everything's like healthy, organic. But at the end of the day, like if everybody made the choice to buy organic and local, then we'd probably put a lot of these we'd put them on notice. We'd put the big ag on notice. Like, hey man, like people don't want this shit anymore. You want to stay in business, you want to make money, adapt or die.
Yeah.
That's sort of the way. Like that, I think that is the way. I had author John Perkins on the show a while ago. He wrote the book Confessions of an Economic Hitman. Fucking one of the best books I ever read in my life. I read it in 2010 and I was like, oh shit, I can't believe this is going on in the world. And he talks about, voting with your dollar, voting with your choices. And he made the point, like, I have to agree with him because I see it happening. It's like, if like these businesses want to stay in power and they want to make money, they don't want to fail. So if people start demanding different things from them, they're going to adapt to that. Otherwise they're stupid and they don't.
Yep, they have to. But it is funny, you said something a minute there about how they trick us into it being healthy. And I have seen a bunch of that labeling come up on even, like candy, right? It's like candy. It's like made with real fruit juice. You know what I mean? It's like, well, what was it made with before? Shit, it says fruit on it, and so now they have a little green badge made with fruit juice. It's like, oh, I could buy this one. This one's healthy, but sometimes it's not any different. Like literally the materials, or not materials, but like the ingredients might not be any different at all. All they did was add a sticker to it, and now you feel better about it.
Oh, you feel so good when you see the little circles.
Yep, the
right?
little circles.
You feel so good, like non-GMO, gluten-free, certified B, like all these things. Like, oh man,
some of those are better than just like made with real sugar, right? It's like,
totally.
Oh, real sugar, cool. It's not fake sugar, so let's eat the sugar.
No trans fats.
Yeah,
I think if I remember correctly, I think that was a thing that was just like invented to give the perception that like Lay's potato chips were healthier or something.
Yeah.
Like they're like Lay's potato chips now with no trans fats. And people were like, what the fuck is trans fat? And then like they just said some gobbledygook and they're like, yeah, but see that we don't have it anymore. Yeah, it's like, now Lay's potato chips without sewage, no nails, no broken pieces of glass. Oh, gosh, that sounds good. That's what it's like. How are we eating food that is like sprayed with pesticides and all this shit?
Right.
It's crazy, man.
You can really tell the difference. Like if you buy a normal tomato and then you buy an organic tomato and you cut them open and do an A/B test, the organic one is like triple as good. So it is so worth it. It tastes like a real fucking tomato.
I'm going to do a Joey Diaz. Listen to me, Joe Rogan. Dog, let me tell you, I bought a fucking local organic tomato, dog.
We live in the Kush life. I love when he says the Kush life.
We live in the Kush life, dog. So I had a dinner at someone's house down in southern Colorado, and they had a garden and they picked the tomatoes that day.
Wow.
And everything else, and we ate them, and I was like, this was a while ago, and it was like, wow, like this is so much better. This is so much like
the tomato that you buy in the grocery store that's like non-organic compared to this, it's basically like you might as well be eating plastic or cardboard.
Right.
The taste is like out of this world when it's fresh.
Yes. And also the energy it provides, the prana that it gets from the sun itself. If you are to take it off of its support system, its vine, and eat it within 30 minutes or so, like it actually is still full of life force energy and prana versus these things that are shipped over, they're off the vine for probably weeks before you ever get it. Like the life force energy is long gone at that point. It's like 1% of what it is when you pick it off of the vine and eat it right then and there. And that's going to, bring so much more nutrition, but also just energy in the sense of spiritual energy, life force energy, prana, stuff that makes your nervous system work better, that makes your whole body work better, your endocrine system work better, all that good stuff. And that's what we evolved to eat. That was the only way we ate prior to this current system where everything's mass produced and preserved and put pesticides on and shipped to you, and it takes 2 or 3 weeks to get to you, and you think it's still good, and maybe it is still good, but it's not nearly as good as it should be for what a human evolved to eat. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I mean, it's a real epidemic. You know, I mean, there's a lot of real epidemics. There's only one pan.
Hey, we can't talk about that. We can't.
I didn't talk about anything.
Okay,
I don't know. I was talking about Peter Pan.
They're gonna put a warning label.
Dude, it's fucking crazy, man.
The other day, I saw something that said like, "This is misinformation." Everyone was sharing it, and you go to it, and it was just a quote. That's all it was. It was a quote by a guy from like 100 years ago that talked about when misinformation will be a thing, and it was like, fact checkers have said this is false. And it's like, it's just a quote. How is that false? A guy said a thing. You can't say that that's false.
Yeah, I saw something else that was like that. It's just wild, man. Like it's just the world of efficiency and safety. It's like it's eating us up. It's devouring the human soul. Right. You know, it's like did I tell you about the time that I got a speeding ticket? Didn't even get pulled over. I just got flashed.
Oh, okay.
So you've heard about that when you run like a red light,
yes.
Right? Fair enough. I get that. But this was different, man. Like I was just driving on the road, and then all of a sudden I saw a bright flash, and I was like, what the fuck was that?
Yeah.
And then I thought, no. Yeah. I was like, don't tell me. Don't tell me that they're just flashing people now. Right. They're not even pulling you over. And that's sure enough, that's exactly what happened. And I was like, man, this is fucked up, because when you get rid of the human element, you get rid of humanity. You get rid of what if I was on the way to the hospital, my wife's going to be pregnant or something, or I shot my finger off and I need to get it resewed. Like a real cop
would have stopped you, found out what's going on, and said, let's actually fly to the hospital, follow me. Right. And now all you get is a ticket in the mail. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's wild, man. You need to have that human connection, you know?
Well, I think it depends on your local laws, but in certain areas and jurisdictions, it actually is unlawful to do that, because an officer has to witness the crime. And there is no witness when it's a robot. There's literally no witness. It's just a robot, you know? Like, so a crime didn't technically take place, meaning the speeding or the going past the red light, those types of things, which I don't know if that's a crime, but I guess
so it's like if a tree falls in the forest kind of thing.
Yeah.
If a car speeds faster than the posted speed limit, but there's no cop to see it, did it really happen?
Exactly. That's it. And I believe that should be part of the law system, because there should be someone to stand there and say, this is my side of the story. I'm the police. I'm here at the hearing, and he flew going 110 miles an hour down a 40, and that's not safe. So, he needs to get a fine for that. And I would agree with that. But when a robot catches you, you know what I mean? There's no witness there. And that's just kind of like not the precedent that the law was founded around, in my understanding of it. And I'm definitely not a lawyer, so don't quote me on all this shit. But all I know is I've heard through the grapevine that, it's actually like not legal or lawful to enforce tickets when no police officer was present. I mean, check with your local laws because it
It
could be
just
different
doesn't
everywhere.
seem
but
right.
Yeah.
It just doesn't feel right. It's
Right.
like, dude, what the fuck? Like, that's my biggest problem with the modern world that we live in is the red tape and bureaucracy. Like there's when you're dealing with a larger company or corporation or whatever government system, there's no like wiggle room that
Right.
you would have if you had like a relationship based thing where you'd be like, hey, look, like this was an accident, this was a mistake. And then the person's like, I understand. Yeah, we'll take care of you. Don't worry. I know you come in here all the time. You've been a customer for a long time. We'll take care of you. When you're dealing with like something like Facebook or like the government or like fucking Chase Bank or whatever the fuck, they're just like, hey man, this is our policy. Like there's no one even there to be like,
Right.
we'll talk to you. We'll help you. We'll work it out. It's just this,
Yep.
it's just an algorithm or machine
Don't you
protocol.
hate when you call a company and you can't talk to anyone?
Hate it.
I hate that. It's like just a bunch of machines and they say the same thing 5 times in a row before you get the right number to press number 5. And it's like, dude, I've wasted so much time here. Someone should just be answering these calls, honestly,
Dude, what about this? What about, have you ever called somewhere and either a person or a machine makes you put in your like information, your name, or say your name and your address or your phone number, something like that. Then you get on the phone with somebody else and they ask you the same fucking thing.
Yep. And I was
I'm
like, why
dude,
did I put it in before then? If you didn't get that information, who got that? Who got that information then if it's not you? You know what I mean? Because they'll be like, yeah, who is this? And what's your number? And what's your social security? And blah, blah, blah. It's like, I had input that all already. Why do you need me to tell you again?
Exactly. You know what I'm thinking now is that I'm thinking that like maybe all the conspiracy theorists that are like, oh, we're going to get tracked and traced and chips and all this stuff. Maybe that's a good thing. Maybe they'll know. Everyone will just know who you are now. You don't have to fucking waste time on the phone or whatever, like emailing back and forth. It's just like, yeah, it's me. Here's my shit.
Right. I don't know what's going to happen with all that and where the world's going, but it's definitely in a very, it seems to be in some type of a tipping point with a lot of things. Society is either about to evolve or about to collapse, and I definitely hope it's evolve.
I think it's gonna. I think both.
Yeah.
Do you think? I think it's both, man. I think that what I'm seeing is that people are just like, the 2020 shit like threw everybody for a loop. A lot of people had to do things that they weren't used to doing, but a lot of people got to spend time with their families, at home and things like that. And like people are not going back to the same way of working and stuff. And, I mean, you're always going to have the people that just follow the orders of the main drum that's beating. But I think a lot of people are also just like taking things in their own hands, forming communities, networks, programs, co-ops, things like that. And just trying to make things work in like a different way,
Mm-hmm. Well, I think hats off to the people that are, trying to create change from within and change by changing themselves and providing a solid example, because so many people just want someone else to make the change. They're just like, hey, I'm going to vote for this guy because he's going to change the world. I don't have to change at all. Like I could stay in my shitty habits and I'm just going to vote for this guy and he's going to do all the stuff. But I don't know. I personally don't subscribe to that logic. I really think if you want the world to change, you need to be the change. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
And then work on your microcosm and it'll slowly go to the macro. And as other people do that, it'll overlap. And then the macrocosm starts actually becoming a field that has changed and has a community evolving. And I mean, certain places do that. I mean, I see Denver doing that, Austin's doing that, certain California places are doing that, and my particular interests are, of course, with cognitive liberty, which is why I love coming on your show. And obviously I believe people should be able to explore their consciousness with whatever means that they care to. And, plant medicines are obviously one of the big ways to do that, that's been, illegal for, the past 30 years. And finally we're able, or maybe more than that, but 50 years, I guess. Finally, we're slowly getting back to where we're able to not be afraid to have a ceremony and fear that the cops are going to bust in because it's decriminalized now. So thank God that some of that's happening, and we're going to live to see that day and not have to live in this shitty world where you have to hide what you're into. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Even like the people that are like, yeah, whatever, man, it doesn't really affect me. I do it anyway. It's like, yeah, but you still have the conditioned energy within you knowing like unconsciously that, well, it is illegal and I could go to jail or people
Right.
could bust in here. And, and I think that like as it's becoming more acceptable, I mean, dude, I can get weed delivered to my house right now.
Right.
Like I could go walk into a store and just be like, yeah, I'll take it. Like that's the way it should be. And
Right.
it
And if
changes things.
a cop pulls up, you're not instantly afraid.
No.
You know, you're
Well,
like in a place like where you're at, for example, like
yeah, yeah.
where marijuana and psilocybin are decriminalized. If a cop was to show up at your house, you wouldn't be like, hell no, I'm not answering that door. Fuck that. You would actually be like, huh, I wonder why he's here. I mean, clearly not to get my shrooms, you know, but like, I'm going to answer the door and see what's up. Like, is there any help? I don't fear this officer. But like
Yeah.
when you're, you know, like a consciousness explorer and you're in a place where that's illegal, you don't want anything to do with the police. You don't want to talk to them. You don't want to give them a reason to suspect you, XYZ. You know, there's so many reasons why we kind of avoid, you know, even being nice to a police officer. It's like, I want to be nice to this guy. He's a fellow human, but hey, he could really fuck my life up and throw me in jail if I smell like weed. So I'm trying to not get near him, you know, and that sucks for them too. Like the police officers, that's a shitty situation where people don't respect you, you know, because you're enforcing things that are just kind of lame, you know, and people are afraid of you instead of like grateful that you're here and to protect us and stuff, you know?
Yeah, dude, it's like there was so much like gun drug violence in like this, particularly in like the 80s, 90s, like that was a thing. And it's like, yeah, all that shit could just be avoided if this was all just legal or not even legal, just not even criminalized in the first place. Let people just do what they want with it. Like I could grow kale in my garden just like that. Like, like let people just do that if people want to buy in stores too. Right. So it's like, obviously it's a lot more complex than that, but like, even like now, like I can't go back and like, it's hard for me to watch like a movie like Lethal Weapon or something like that. Like these like 80s, like a lot of 80s, 90s movies, like action movies and stuff. Like the bad guy is always like, he runs an evil drug operation. And they're like shooting like machine guns and there's like shootouts and he's like, you're scum. We're going to get you, Sanchez. And, it's like, dude, the guy is just providing supply to people who want it. Now, arguably, some things are fucked up, but usually that happens when the government gets involved, like the CIA crack epidemic and, how they supplied flooded the streets with that. The journalist Gary Webb uncovered that and then he was murdered for it, but they or suicided.
I've heard other things about things like methadone or something like that, how they got people hooked on legal meth, you know?
Yeah.
Like, as long as they're getting paid, you can be on meth all you want, as long as we're getting a cut. You better not be buying this and we're not getting our percentage, you know? But like, if you want to come to our clinic and pay us, like you can be on meth all day, every day, you know? That's kind of a weird thing. But I guess in the sense of like talking about cannabis, which is more of a victimless, medicine. If there was no drug war, everyone that wanted it would just grow it in their backyard. And because everyone could do it, no one would want to steal it from you. No one would want to own a territory. No one would want to enforce it with violence. You know what I mean?
Right.
So.
Right. That's the thing. It's you can't patent it. Like these plant medicines and stuff, you can't patent them. You can't own them. You can't create a scarcity model where there's just infinite abundance,
Exactly.
And so, yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. I try and not even give that stuff like energy anymore. I'm just like,
same.
yeah, I'm just thinking positive, doing my thing, helping people, helping myself, and thinking, just living in that reality. I don't even want to. I don't want to give weight anymore to the negative charges that want to pull me in and give it attention. Like, I even see people talking about stuff online about like things that are going on or whatever, the things of the day, and it's like, man, that doesn't like affect me at all, dude.
Right.
Like, it doesn't fucking affect me at all.
years ago, maybe I would have chimed in to like get my opinion out there so I could have something clever to say or make a good point. And I don't give a shit. Dave Chappelle controversy at Netflix. Who cares? He's a fucking comedian.
I know.
Who
right?
gives a shit?
For real.
Let other people argue about that. I'm going to fucking, stay doing my thing over here.
Right. Well, I think that's healthy boundaries, because to get overly immersed in the negative headlines just brings your own nervous system health down, and that's kind of what they're trying to create, is a bunch of sick
you're bringing
people.
my nervous system health down, dog.
For real, dog.
Yeah.
Like, they're trying to create a sick society of people who are overly concerned with shit that doesn't matter and not concerned with things that do matter. You know what I mean?
Get your NSH up, dude. Get that NSH.
Yeah.
Nervous
so,
system
yeah,
health.
it's a weird one, because I'm caught in the similar thing where I don't personally weigh in on political matters, like, almost ever in a public forum. And, you get those kind of people sometimes that are especially close to you that can get away with kind of critiquing you because y'all are so close and friends and fam and whatnot. But, like, when they kind of say, where are you on this subject? Where's your support? Like, I didn't see a repost. I didn't see you supporting this publicly. So you must not care about our society. You must not care about the big injustices going on. Like, you're a careless person. You don't care about blah, 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 blah. And it's like, no, that's not it at all. I just care more about the things that actually are going to impact my life. You know what I mean? Like, I always use this example of the ice bath. Like, when you're in an ice bath, you're not thinking about who the president is. It's the furthest fucking thing from your mind. You're like in your body. Am I going to survive? Holy shit. I'm really doing this. This is me. This is my world. You know what I mean? Like, you're totally like into, your own body. And then even when you get out for 1, 2, 3 hours after, you're very much more like in your life and not overly concerned with all this shit going on out there that doesn't even, we've said this on another podcast I had with you. It doesn't even really seem to be in reality, because I remember you had said this on one of our shows. It was like, someone's like, fire, destruction, war, violence. And then you step outside and the birds are singing. You know what I mean? So where is all that shit? Like, I don't see it anywhere in the real world. It's all just seemingly hype online,
Dude, so true. Yeah, that's a Bill Hicks bit where he's like, you turn on CNN and it says war, death, famine, AIDS, terror, hatred, depression, recession. Then you go outside, boop, 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 boop. It's like the crickets. Like, where's all this shit happening, dude?
Exactly.
But yeah, it's like it's David Graeber, who's like one of my heroes, famous anarchist, anthropologist, philosopher, thinker, passed away recently, but he had a book called Bullshit Jobs, came out maybe like a couple years ago. And his argument is like, the more and more that we keep, air quotes, progressing or think we're progressing, all we're really doing is solving things to problems that we're inventing because we have more things. We have more jobs. We create more abstractions, and then it's like, oh well, we need someone to do that. Oh well, we need someone to do this. Oh well, we need someone to do that. And it's like, in reality we really don't need all this shit. It's just like, well, we have this big office space and we have a team of writers, so we better find stories to write. And what are the stories that they write? You go on Twitter, you go on like Dig
Clickbait.
Or whatever. Yeah, Emily Ratajkowski's body has me thinking about my own. That's the top story right now. What? What is going, like, we're just inventing all this shit to, there's some interesting stuff out there, but it's really, we're living in a time now where the choice is what not to consume.
Right.
Because there's so much out there. And when you choose what not to consume and what to consume, then you create your own, air quote, reality, because it's just like, you're not taking it all in. It's too much when you try and take it all in. And it's not good for your nervous system.
Exactly. Well, this brings me back to Tim Ferriss, who we mentioned earlier in the podcast, and he talks about in his book 4 Hour Work Week,
right?
Which, by the way, isn't about actually having a 4 hour work week. That's kind of just like a title to get your mind thinking. But he talks about the low information diet and how to actually take control. How to actually take control of your life. You first have to stop all of the external input, or at least slow it down by a shitload. So like, he goes into about how he won't look up certain news. If the news is important enough, it's going to find him. And in fact, he leans on his relationships to filter out the news that he personally needs to know and that might actually personally impact him. So he kind of like delegates having a friend who's particularly interested in these topics to filter out the bullshit to then give him the concise information. And now he's not surfing the web for 5 hours a day. He's building his company, or he's building his life up, or he's bettering his health, or he's doing these types of things instead of just like being on Twitter endlessly. He'll let someone else in his circle who really has more of a fascination with that be, again, his news source. And there's a whole bunch of that. It's pretty much like he says, for 1 week, you need to go on a low information diet so that you can get clear on your life and your microcosm and clean your own house, so to speak, before, you're overly worried about everyone else's house.
Fuck yeah, dude. Right? Like if your house was a mess
Mm-hmm.
and your lawn's overgrown and you got boxes everywhere and shit everywhere and walls falling apart, and then you go outside your house and you're yelling at your neighbors to get their shit together.
Right.
Come on.
Exactly.
What's wrong with that picture?
Right.
It's mandatory ice baths for all.
Mm-hmm.
Timewheel Podcast Network is going to do it.
We're
going to travel to every major city. Ice baths, mandatory. We're going to knock on your door. You're going to answer the door and be like, yeah, hi, can I help you? Grab you, throw you in the ice bath, hold you down 5 minutes.
That'd be a good
change the
thing.
world, bro.
That'd actually be a good Sheath commercial. I'm gonna try and remember that, where it's like Steven knocks on your door and he's like, "We're going to the ice bath right now," and he's like a gangster who's like pushing you into the bath. That's funny.
Yeah, dude. Well, I mean, man, it does see that we are intentionally seeking out challenging things to do because we live in this world where, like, dude, you literally don't have to leave your house. You could do whatever you want from home.
Right.
You can interact online. You can get things delivered. But what kind of life is that, right? Like, you want to feel the human experience. You want to feel the soul coming into your body and embody that spirit.
Yes.
So we purposefully engage in challenging things, right?
Yeah.
Like it's pretty wild that we live in this time period where we have so much abundance, so much entertainment, so many things that we could use as distractions if we wanted to. And we have to be the ones to say no to a lot of things and also say yes to things that are intentionally difficult and challenging.
Yeah. That's why I love psychedelics, because when you use them in the right way, you can step outside of your normal, everyday, habitual mental space and see a overarching life view of what's important. And for me, I saw so many times in my psychedelic states almost this like near-death experience, like end of life flash, your life flashes before your eyes type situation. And I would see, I would get the intuition that how proud would I be if this was my actual death and I had just looked at my phone like this for so many hours of the day. I would not want to have lived my life that way. And so for that kind of like, before it's too late flash of your own death to to reprioritize the things that you're doing in daily life. I would have much rather laughed with my friends in the sun sitting on the grass for all those hours and not just been alone on a couch on a phone, feeling like I'm socializing or being productive. And I've gotten so many of those glimpses, and psychedelics are so good at providing context for what a real good life experience is.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Helps you remember. It makes you feel the feeling of being alive and remembering what that feels like in, fully. Because you could say, it's all relative to what your experience is and what you know. If you never had the experience of feeling that feeling before, well, then you just don't know that it's available. That's why you have to do the thing. You can't hear about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it has to be direct experience. You have to go in the ice bath. You can't just like intellectually conceive of that. Yeah, I could see how that could be beneficial. And, yeah, that sounds right. Yeah, that research looks good. It's like, no, dude, you got to go in there.
Yep.
You got to go in there, man.
Yep. Absolutely. I agree. Yeah, because it's so easy for people to say, I see the health benefits in that. I'm on board with that, but then never do an ice bath. And it's like, well, hey, you can't really like be on board with a thing you've never done. I don't know. That to me, that just doesn't feel. I mean, sure, maybe you don't hate it, but you can't really be for it either. It's weird.
You could probably be on board, but you're not really going to know what it really is,
Mm-hmm.
because there's an information that gets delivered to you that's physical, that's
Mm-hmm.
body, it's not in the mind.
Right.
It's something different. Same thing with plant medicines, or especially fungi. Like there's an
Mm-hmm.
intelligence there.
Yeah.
What is it? I don't know. How does it communicate? Not like we communicate. It's different.
Right.
It's different. It's just different. I could try and explain it in all the best ways that I can, but at the end of the day, you're never going to know. You're just
Mhm.
never going to know unless you just eat 5 dried grams in silent darkness. Then you'll see.
Then
There
you'll
is
see.
a world that exists over there. It's here.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's where
Yeah.
we came from, like I feel like it's clear to me that psychedelics have played a massive role in the evolution of the human species and the imagination and the mind and all of that. And I've talked on this topic on a number of shows, and even the whole stoned ape theory honestly makes a lot of sense to me, because as monkeys, who we all know chill in the trees and mushrooms grow on the ground, that would be the thing to bring you down to come get and realize, whoa, like really dope shit's on the ground. So let's stay down here and let's, learn how to walk here and protect ourselves here and build here. And then slowly but surely humans, form over however long,
Yeah.
and alongside these experiences the whole time. That's why archetypes like the shaman and the druid and the mystic and all of these, the priest, all these things are hard drilled into us as like roles that people fill, is because there's been people doing this work the whole human existence. And then it wasn't until the last 50 70 years or something that all that was almost hidden from us, by American culture and the history books that we grew up in school with. And, shamans aren't real. That was a thing 2,000 years ago. No, shamans are real even today. You know what I mean? And they need to be real because there's a very real need for that role. And there always will be, in my opinion.
Right. Magic isn't real. It's just Harry Potter and Fantasia and, abracadabra and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, yeah, we trivialize and fictionalize a lot of things. And we were made to think that, like, you start thinking in ways where people would say, oh, that's kind of woo woo, or that's magical thinking or whatever. It's like, yeah, but you're trying to bring everybody back into this bland, like boring worlds where it's just like, look, here's reality. You got the wall here and the wall there, and that's it. You stay in this room, and this is this is grounded reality. That's it. You go to work, you shut up, you pay your bills, you die, you pay your taxes, you die again.
100%.
Yeah, it's like there's the mystical element, man. I even saw an article the other day, and this is like reminding me back about like what I'm choosing not to give energy to. It was like an article someone posted on Facebook about like, and I rarely go on Facebook. I just happen to be on there, and it was like, is there a problem with mysticism and psychedelics? And I'm like, all right, like I'm not even gonna give this any energy or attention, because someone's just thinking of a provocative title in Forbes, right? They're probably trying to capitalize on something. They're stirring some pot. This doesn't exist. There's no problem. They're trying to create something. And we need more mystics. We need more mysticism. We need to be living in more of a magical, fun world where our environments, spark joy and they're fun, like the festival environment, right?
Yeah,
like
100%.
walking to your friend's house, like walking by, you see like someone on a one wheel, like with LED lights and like spinning fire. You're like, whoa, that's cool.
In the celebration of life.
In the celebration of life.
That's important.
Yes.
And with everything we just said about magic and mysticism and stuff, I personally would rather live my life believing in all of it and at my death realizing I was wrong and it doesn't exist and have made a mistake than to never believe in it and it turns out I was wrong and it was real. I would rather be in the camp of people believing in it while I'm alive and having a ton of fun. And then when I die, I die. Oh, well, like I was going to die either way than not believing in it, shaming it, living a dull life and then dying and then realizing it was real. And it's like, oh, now I really feel stupid. You know what I mean? Because like, really, if we do just die, there's no loss in believing in all of that shit. And clearly there's weight to it because it hits us, like the Harry Potter movie hits us for a reason. It's because it's something that's within us that we came from, that we archetypically identify with and are fascinated with and wish was real. And guess what? It is. You just have to put yourself in the right state to receive it or the right community to believe in it. Like there's this spiritual community called Daminher. Have you ever heard of it?
No.
They're in Italy. They built the underground temples of Daminher. Psychedelic temples. If you Google like psychedelic temples,
Oh yeah,
Italy.
yeah. I think I remember you telling me about these underground temples.
Yeah, they're amazing. But there's a community there that all believe in magic. Like everyone there, and when you're in a bubble of people who all believe, it makes it way easier to believe. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
hell yeah.
And there's something to be said about the bubble mentality and how that could be a form of manipulation and stuff. But I'm not saying like go by everything that this one dude says, but like have your own experience and indulge in the mystery and the wonder and the magic of life a little bit. It doesn't have to be what you think about 24/7, but I don't know. I would again rather believe in it and be wrong than not believe in it and be wrong. So it's like
well, yeah, but like I mean, even I don't think there is any being wrong because I think that when you believe in it, it becomes real to you. Like
right.
a child who's like, oh, like this is look, I'm a rhinoceros, like, ooh, I'm a rhinoceros, or I'm a unicorn, right? And they like put a thing on their head, they're running around, they're playing, they're in that imaginary world. I remember living in that imaginary world. It was so real to me. It was so, and it was filled with such excitement and hope. I remember being a little kid and being so excited going to bed the night before Christmas because Santa Claus was coming.
Totally.
Now, Santa Claus is not like real as like there's literally a guy that goes around and crawls into the chimney, but we've created the Santa Claus myth that is real. And it's like this real thing where we have this holiday and it's Santa and the reindeers and the elves and there's movies and there's cartoons and there's books and the kids' imaginations are lit up by this jolly guy who eats cookies and brings gifts. And it's like, what a cool fucking myth, And we have the ability to create all those kinds of myths. And it's only like that fucking bland manila folder office space adult world that says, come back to reality. You got to start thinking in reality. You can't be prancing around thinking you're a unicorn. It's like, why not? Go prance around, be a unicorn, and join a community of people who want to be unicorns. Everybody's chill and nobody's forcing anyone to do anything.
Right.
And it's like a chill environment. Fucking have at it, man.
Totally.
Create that reality.
Absolutely. Yeah, I say why not? Because I believe that, creation is fractal. Creation is what made us. And so we as, forms of creation continue to create and create new paradigms, create new forms of art, create new conversations, create all this stuff. And I don't know, I feel like that's the dharma of the human experience is to continue the fractal of creation. And funny enough, this gets pretty meta, but if there is a God, quote unquote, and that God could just be computer programmers at a high level, they created us and we're going to then create us inside of another one, and then that one's going to gain sentience and create others inside of that one. And this is informed by a DMT trip I had where I did DMT, and the first vision I saw was a cosmic guy doing DMT and blowing out the smoke of the DMT, and within the smoke of the DMT our whole universe popped into existence. and we then learned how to do DMT to see then where we came from. I don't know. It was a really funny
That's
fractal
awesome,
loop
dude. I had a
DMT.
similar fucking thing, dude.
Let's go.
Hell yeah, dude. And I even tried to draw it on my iPad, but I drew, he's blowing out all these fractals. And in my vision, it was a cosmic like baby.
Okay.
And the cosmic baby was like hitting this pipe and then blowing it out. And then there was all these like fractals and this mess. But that is so cool, man. I love that. Can you say that again? The fractal infinite fractal creation. Is that what you said?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so yeah, creation is like a fractal experience, as most of life is. You know, we tend to operate in these sacred geometry structures that create existence. You know, like a flower, for example. You know, like you see, like in a sunflower, you see the fractal way in which it generates. Almost everything kind of generates that way, is from the cells that, you know, we became when we entered the womb, and the sperm and the egg came together. It creates little bubbles and fractals and the flower of life and all the stuff. Like, it's just the way that the universe seems to operate. But yeah, I mean, going into that experience, it's very clear to me, you know, on an experiential level, with the psychedelic trips that I've had, that very likely this is just yet another hallucination. I mean, life is just a hallucination that's extremely like consistent, and kind of not consistent in certain ways too. So you can kind of peer through it from time to time as well. But it's funny that a hallucinogen, quote unquote, would show us the hallucination of our sober reality, when they try to make you believe that it shows you the not real. It actually shows you the more real. You know what I mean? So
yes. 100%. I know what you mean. I feel more real. I feel more connected. I feel more alive. I feel like I know more about how, like, what's happening and how it happens by being in that space. And it makes me think, like, there's so many brilliant people in the world. And when you're starting to talk about this, I'm thinking of like Fibonacci sequence and, you know, complexity theory. And like, you know, there's just so many, man. Like, there's the unified field theory, and just everybody has that. Like, there's so many brilliant minds that have theories, that have works, that have studied. They'll even tell you, well, it's not a theory, it's math. You know, like, there's the math way of understanding. There's the spiritual, like the spirit guides. There's all these different modalities through religion, through science, through theories, whatever you want to say. Like, there's something to what you just said about God. God's having fun, man. Like that big cosmic God baby, you know, smoking that DMT bowl, like blowing that infinite fractal creation out.
Right.
That's going to then duplicate and replicate and mutate into infinite fractal creations of its own.
Yeah.
That's what I think the whole point of this is how much can we create? How diverse can we get? How weird can we make things? How crazy can we create? You know, just keep going, because there has to be. I think it's all true and it's all not in both.
Well,
in
I
both
could just
ways.
see, you know, gods are out there. They're chilling. You know, they've done a lot. They're looking for a fun night out, you know, like us humans. And hey, guys, I got this creation dust. Guess what? If you smoke it, like, it creates like more universes. You want to try this shit out? Let's try it. You know what I mean? And then they try it and they make the multiverse. And it's like, damn, that shit's funny. I wonder what's going to happen in there. Oh, well, we'll just leave them to figure it out. And then, of course, we try to figure it out, but we're not going to, because a god did it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, but what's funny is, by ingesting our own creation dust, DMT, we can get a glimpse of where we came from, in my mind anyway. Like, it shows me that we're all from an infinite source. We're all infinite beings. We're all emanations of the same light. And we're all unified in that. And that's why it's good to be namaste with other humans. You know what I mean? Because we're all the same thing. We're all the same exact consciousness, just confused by this little thing called the ego that wants more for me. And that means less for you, you know? But by living with compassion and from the heart, you can start to transmute those energies into things that actually heal people instead of just more like, and I'm sad, I have everything I want under the sun and I'm still sad. It's like, well, why? It's because you don't have good friends, you don't have good relationships, you're not having good experiences with people, and you got the game wrong, so
Dude, yeah, I think that we've played a certain game for a long time, and we're at a point right now where it's like, yo, we don't have to play this game anymore.
Right.
We could keep playing games, but we could play them differently. We don't need to play the game of like every man for themselves, like, competition, cutthroat, just hoard resources,
Right.
stack up dynasties, like
right.
whatever the fucking thing is, like cheating, lying, stealing, like these kinds of things. Like, we could be creating new games. We are creating new games. And so it's just that there's a bunch of people in the world that are just really fucking lame. And they like to just do things in like a boring, lame way.
Yeah.
And, who knows? I mean, you want to talk about aliens, UFOs, or anything like that? What else should we get into?
I love aliens and UFOs. I mean, I've been a fan of them since I was a kid. I was always very attracted to them. And I always wonder what makes us attracted to certain things, because other kids were, for example, attracted to being a firefighter. Like, they saw a firefighter, and, oh, I want to do that. Like, that's what I want to do. That's what's calling me. Someone might see a ballerina and want to be a ballerina. It just hits them in the soul. Like, that's the thing I need to do. Like, I'm so attracted to that. Like, for me, when I would watch movies about aliens, or these, like, they would sell these tapes at the like grocery store, and at Blockbuster, we would rent these movies about alien encounters and all, like documentaries and these types of things. Those always reached out to me. They were like, oh, I need to watch that, and I need to watch that, and that's super dope, and that's really cool. And I would even draw UFOs as a kid, literally 5 years old, and I swear I need to find the first UFO I drew, because I wonder what the fuck that means. You know what I mean? Like, why was I so interested in aliens and UFOs? And then much later in life, learn all the stuff I know about psychedelics and those altered state spaces and entities that exist on the other side of all that are seemingly the aliens, that they're just like higher dimensional beings that can drop down into lower dimensions because they're so advanced. And I don't know, that's the way I kind of tend to look at aliens these days, is like entities that are highly advanced. They've been evolving a lot longer than we have, and they've figured out how to traverse dimensions and realms. And they can exist in higher realms, but they can traverse to the lower realms as well. And every now and then we'll get a glimpse of them through a UFO or an alien abduction. But it's interesting too that I also feel that a lot of these alien abduction stories, where people say like, a great light lifted me out of my bed and I ended up in a spaceship and they operated on me and stuff, I tend to think that they're actually DMT trips. Your actual physical body didn't leave your bed,
right?
But your experience, your soul did leave your bed and did get sucked up by a higher dimensional entity. And that could be an endogenous DMT release, or people that are just born with extra DMT, and maybe they get flashes of it as some type of just like, mutation of their biology. And so they've been abducted 9 times. And yes, they really have been abducted. It was just their soul got abducted up to a higher dimension. It wasn't that their body actually went to a ship,
Yeah, I mean, I was in like a magical sort of Aladdin style, but ancient India palace type magical place last night in my dream. It was amazing. Really vivid. Like, where was I?
Exactly.
Where the hell did I go? Like, I was there, man.
Right. Yeah,
like,
you were.
I was there.
You really were.
Like, I had this epic lucid dream, and like I woke up and I was like, whoa, man, like that was, to tying it back to like what we were talking about in the beginning with time in the morning and everything. Oftentimes, because I have very vivid lucid dreams, when I wake up, I'm like, whoa, it like takes me a second to come back into this dimension, almost like come back into this timeline or whatever it is, like come back into this waking consciousness. I'm like, holy shit. Like I was just like somewhere else for a while. And now I'm back and I'm like, oh shit.
I got a question for you about dreams.
Yeah.
Have you had a dream where you do a psychedelic in your dream?
Yes.
I have too. Yeah. And it's interesting how it works. It's weird how like in a dream, I'll take a tab of LSD and like the LSD will kick in and I'll literally have a trip in my dream. Yeah. It's a trip within a trip.
Yeah, I've had
That
that.
shit is
Yeah.
nuts. And it's
Yeah, it's
awesome
fucking
because then you
cool.
can wake up and be like, damn, I feel like I just got out of a psychedelic journey and it was free. You know what I mean? And I don't have to, like, my body doesn't have to process the next day. Cause like for instance, LSD for me actually depletes my physical energy quite a bit, which is why I don't use it very much. Unless I microdose, like if I do like a 1-2 tab journey, like the next day I'm pretty, like, my mind is super sharp and clear and I'm floating and spiritual and all that good stuff. My body itself feels a little tired, so it's nice to not have that side effect of the body being tired, but I still got the trip, that's freaking dope.
Yeah. Definitely. I mean, there's so many theories about dreams, like what they are and what they mean and stuff like that. And like, I can't help but think like so this was an interesting dream. I think it was around 2014. I was deciding I was going to go backpacking and traveling. I was either going to go to Thailand and travel around Southeast Asia, or I was going to go to Peru and drink ayahuasca
Mm.
for the first time. And in my dream, I was with comedian Ari Shafir, and we were in Thailand drinking ayahuasca.
Wow. So you did
So
both.
yeah, so I was like, what the fuck does that mean? But it was weird because I actually didn't know Ari at the time. I met him later on when I came back from my trip. But then when I came back from my trip, then like I started to notice he started going and traveling. Like he went to China, he went to Thailand, he went to like
Mhm.
Bali. He like travels now like all the time. I think he drank ayahuasca in like Ecuador or something. So
Mhm.
there was like a timeline or something that like we were doing that, maybe we were doing that together. I don't know, like why was he there, why did that happen, why
Right.
was it, and then why did he then went to go do those things like
Yeah.
later in life.
I love this topic. I explored this on my episode with Eric Godsey when he came on my show about how does our dream world somehow have a way to tell the future. You know what
Yeah,
I mean? It's really like prophetic dreams, and
yeah,
it's not that it's going to get it 100% right and exactly what you dreamt happened, but like some things from it, like that the dream symbolized and it like gave you the message that this will happen, does tend to happen for people who are particularly interested and or integrated with their dreams, where they remember them or they keep a dream journal or something, or they get that sense of deja vu a few days later and they say, what, this happened in a dream, what the fuck is that? How does the dream world know what the future is holding? You know what I mean? It's
right, yeah,
such a weird
totally.
paradox thing.
Yeah, I think like, you know, to call in like Jessa Reed terminology and Noah Lampert, like they talk about like timelines, like that's the language they use,
Yeah.
timelines. And I guess like, it makes sense to me that basically there's an infinite amount of us's,
Mm-hmm.
or us's. There's an infinite amount of us,
Right.
and every like choice or decision we make forks off into different timelines or something,
Mm-hmm.
right? So
Yeah.
I feel like sometimes I'm having dreams where like I'm still doing stand up and I'm in New York, or I'm like hanging out with people and I'm like, why is this happening? Or I'll have dreams where I'm like still working at the pizza place that I worked at when I was in like high school or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, maybe there's like different versions of me that like never left my town or never stopped doing stand up, or went to travel around and did something. So I think of it almost like there's like different timelines, there's different versions of me that made different choices, and I'm getting to like go and jump in and see what's going on there or
Yeah.
something.
That's kind of like the multiverse idea.
Yeah, multiverse theory. Yeah.
Totally. No, I mean, I believe that's a very real possibility. And it's interesting how, the dream state and the psychedelic state, the things that pull you out of your current, operating system, is the thing that shows you that. But it's always super interesting. And my life has been full of synchronicities ever since I started using plant medicine. Like I've just seen so much interconnectedness between decisions I've made and things that were a good idea, things that were a bad idea. Like, um, they would, I don't know, I definitely followed a breadcrumb trail from my first psychedelic awakening, spiritual awakening, Kundalini arousal. There's so many words for it, but I just started to say, like, when I would see synchronicities, I'm going to go towards that direction, or that's an affirmation, or that's a positive message, or that's a good omen, or these types of things. And the more I followed those, the better my life got, just being honest. Like, things have gotten so much better for me than I ever would have, thought. We've smashed our goals time and time again, and it's crazy to be in that place where, like, for example, like Sheath, like the amount of sales we get per day. Sometimes Bobby will be like, "Oh, we had a low sales day," and I'll reflect back and say, "I remember when if we had just got a sales day like that one single time, our life would have been complete."
Mm-hmm.
If we had just sold $10,000 worth of underwear in one day, one time, our life would have been like, what the fuck is happening? It's crazy.
Yeah.
And now that's like the low number. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's that relativity ratchet
Yep.
that puts you in a different reality tunnel. Now you got, a Tesla, now you gotta get a helicopter next. It's like, but I mean, but it's also cool. It's cool that you get to do those things, but it's also like, yeah, I mean, I remember when I had like so much more money in my bank account, and like I would just like, now I'm like so much more grateful. I don't know, it's weird, it's just like, it's all relative. Like,
right.
your circle, your influence, your sphere, you're always looking at like, you forget. Like, I think it's just built into our programming, because you can't always remember that, because then you'll just be stuck. So you have to have a little bit of like ego moving you forward, like to be like, hey, I want to like achieve something. Like, I want to hit goals. I want to play a particular kind of game.
Right.
Yeah.
I think the integration of a sense of remembrance as to what would have fulfilled you in your prior, more humble, more early state of life is very important, because otherwise you just keep postponing your happiness to the future. It's always like, well, when I get this, I'll finally be happy. And then you get there and you're not happy, and you again push it to, now when I get this, I'll finally be happy. Like, say it's a number in your bank account. Like, when I finally get to $100,000 in my bank account, I'm going to be so happy. My life's going to be complete. I'm going to finally do the things I want to do. I'm not going to do shit I don't want to do. And then you get there, and because you're not able to remember that initial goal, you just say, I'm so much less than that guy over there. So like, now my real goal is actually 250,000 in my bank account, and man, I'm really low right now. Like, damn, this sucks, like I'm feeling bad. But like, to remember what your goal is and your journey is and where you were is important to maintaining a sense of happiness and fulfillment in life, I think, because so many times I do try to reflect back on how complete my life is now because of all the work that I had done, instead of trying to further complete and further complete and further complete my life, and I don't know, I think it's a healthy place to be when you are able to kind of sit in your success for a bit, instead of always try to push the dial at the cost of even your health and your sanity and your sleep and, all this and that. Like, try to slow down and remember. And I think it's important to have goals. Please set goals. Like, that's what life is about, like achieving these fun little games, and you know what I mean, like playing the game. But once you achieve the goal, you don't have to just like press it even further and further and further away from you. Like, get where you're going and embrace that you're here now a little bit for a little while, and it's not going to last forever. But some people don't even relish in the little victories anymore. Like, nothing is good enough. Like, nothing's ever good enough. Like, they could have $1 million company and they're comparing themselves to $1 billion company and they're feeling like shit, when like, remember when you had no money, now you have $1 million company. Like, be grateful and bask in this success a little bit. You know what I mean?
Totally. Yeah. Comparison is the death of joy.
Yeah.
And remembering like that initial spark of passion to create, because wherever that place is that you're creating from is what you're creating. So if you're like not creating from that true authentic heart space of like love and joy, and you're just creating to like make numbers go up or something, that's, people could feel that too. It's like, oh man, this
this product used to be good, but when they switched over to this other material, now it's not good. And,
Right.
whatever, got a crack in it.
Yeah. The psychedelic space is always really good at showing me almost the stupidity of how far people will go to have a higher number on a screen. You know what I mean? It's literally a number on a screen,
Yeah.
and like that is everything to them. Like that,
Sure.
those amount of likes or that amount of money or that amount of followers, whatever it is, like they'll be unhappy because of what a number on a screen dictates. And in the psychedelic state, I get the overwhelming sense of what is real and what isn't real. And what is real is the world, not the number on a screen. You know what I mean?
Totally.
It should have so much more value to you to have a healthy body and positive relationships in your life and healthy relationships and fun activities and being in nature and going into the river and putting your feet in the grass. Like that's the real currency worth chasing, instead of sitting in a box for years upon years upon years, a cubicle, a room, just to get a number on a screen up and then your life's gone. You know what I mean?
Totally, man.
That shit's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. And it's, everybody gets caught up in it. Even if you're in the spiritual community, the psychedelic community, everybody gets caught up in it. But we have new value systems that are forming, and people are realizing, like, hey, we can love and support each other in different ways, and it doesn't have to be isolated. It doesn't have to be individualistic.
Yeah.
I
I always support people finding and making wealth for themselves and spreading a message, but it shouldn't be what your happiness is based on. Like I'm not against social media. Like I love social media. I'm a social media guru, uh, as told by many people. And I get it. I get the algorithms and the program that is social media and all the stuff. And I think there's a healthy amount to use it and make use of it and spread positive information and spread love. But for it to make you upset because you don't have an amount of numbers or something like that, that is misguided. It's not misguided to show up and try your best at sharing a positive message. I think that's fine, especially if it's like sub 1 hour a day. But when if you're spending 8 hours a day, that's your whole day. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
you're not
right.
getting
Like,
other shit done at that point.
you're sacrificing the whole joy of the process and the love of the game for the end result, missing the whole point, right? Like Alan Watts says, the point is to dance. What's the point of a song? What's the point of dancing? It's to do the thing.
Right. Well, that brings me to the concept of where at the beginning of a lot of people's social media journey, they have a form of work or artwork or music or a podcast or something that they want to get out. And the reason that they plan to gain fans is so that those fans will then enjoy that art. But then quickly they get swept away with just making more and more and more fans. And they only do the things that the social media rewards to get more and more and more fans, and not the reason that they started it to begin with, which was to get more viewers to your podcast or to get your art out into the world or your music out into the world. And now they're spending 8 and 10 hours a day curating posts to get more fans and never making their art anymore, which is the reason that they wanted the fans to begin with, was to share the art with. And now everyone follows your account because all they want is memes, not your art, because you stopped integrating your art into the flow of what you were doing. And now you just got a page for shit. What do they call it? Shit posting, right? So now you've built for 5 years like an account that only performs well when there's memes, when you started it to promote your music or your podcast or your art. It just people get lost in it, man. It's fucking crazy.
A lot of traps, a lot of traps, a lot of paths that are like mazes and labyrinths, and
right.
What's we're gonna have to wrap here.
Yep.
What is something to? How can you help the listeners here? What would you say? Because I know you always have like gems in this space of, how do you stay consistent to try and avoid these traps, or not even just avoid them, because sometimes maybe you go into them, but you get out of them quickly, so it's like staying on the path, not getting trapped in the mazes and the tricks and the traps, because there's so many of them wherever you go. You know, I once thought that as if I just get in the spiritual psychedelic space, then it's all gravy. You know, I ain't gonna worry about anything else. Then I read Cho Young Trumpa's book, Spiritual Materialism, and I'm like, fuck, there's that. Damn it.
Right. For me, it's been integration of philosophy and psychedelics, plant medicine use, because I wouldn't have the headspace to mentally wrap my mind around the philosophy if it weren't for those experiences and knowing where those philosophies are emanating from. So, for example, the Tao Te Ching has been an extremely helpful book for me to call back to if I find myself going into a negative headspace rabbit hole. I'll just remember the Tao Te Ching. And I wouldn't resonate with the Tao Te Ching if it wasn't for my psychedelic experiences. I wouldn't have understood what the fuck it was saying, you know? But because I had...
What is it saying?
It's saying that the way is what's going to happen. What's going to happen is going to happen. And for you to try to control the uncontrollable is misguided. So for you to constantly be trying to control something that's out of your control, you'll never win. It's an endless fight that you'll never win. So why? Why would you do that? Why would you sign up for an endless fight you'll never win? So much of it is sitting back and letting the world do what it does. And it comes back to you, and gaining patience. Because I, for one, am since a child been extremely impatient. You know what I mean? Like impatient.
Yeah.
I always wanted everything. I wanted candy at the register. I wanted a toy if we went to the store. I would cry and have a fit if I didn't get it. That, you know, as an adult, it was like, oh, I like this girl. She better like me too, like really quick. Like, I'm not down to wait for this. If, you know, like all this. And like, I was very impatient growing up. And then through my understanding of that came to me using psychedelics and then systems like the Tao Te Ching, I was able to see the process and trust the process and not try to control things that are out of my control. Show up, do my best, and then wait for the results. Be able to sit back and relax and not overly tie your ego and your personality to the results of what's coming, or to even expect results. You know, like I stopped kind of expecting that things would happen in this way if I did them this way. I would just kind of show up authentically and say what I want to say, do what I want to do, whatever, and then be able to detach a bit from the results of that. And if positive results came back, great. If they didn't, I wasn't expecting them anyway. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So yeah, I just say integration of philosophy has really helped me to continue on my path and not get overly wrapped up in negative mental spaces or games not worth playing, you know?
Yeah. So the direct experience that takes you out of your monkey mind, that quiets your default mode network, that activates your soul, puts you in your body, you see another world, way of being, and then having like a text, like somebody's thoughts to then apply that to. Like it's like the experience is like the meat, and then the text is like the skeleton, and then boom, you got a person. And I love that, man. The art of wu wei, the art of not doing, the art of not forcing.
Yes, not forcing.
Forcing.
That's the thing I had to learn to not do continuously, because I would feel like before these experiences, try to force a thing, force a girl to like me, you know, like just by like trying to be overly romantic and whatnot. You know, it's like overly, I care so fucking much about this working, and that actually pushes them away. It's so weird. Like by how like caring overly too much, you appear like an obsessed guy. It is like, what? I really just liked you. I didn't mean to appear that way. I just really liked you. I wanted this to work out, and I'm a driven guy. But you know, I had to like learn to sit back and let the results work themselves out. You know, hey, you know, like let's just put it in the example of a girl again. Is it's just like, yeah, you know, I think you're super pretty. That's cool. And then that's it. I'm done. If she wants to talk to me again, she will, whatever. You know what I mean? Like this is just examples from like high school versus like my 20s and how things changed. And similar with like business goals. It's like, I wouldn't overly, tie my ego and identity to the success or not success of a business venture. I would just let what happens happen. And if a thing wants to naturally dissolve, I let it. So many of the ventures I undertook just didn't want to go. They didn't want to live. They didn't want to snowball effect and create a big thing. And I had to listen to that instead of force. No, This has to work. I'm going to put everything into this. This has to work. If it doesn't, I'm destroyed. This is a defeat. Blah, 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 And I don't know. I just think that there's that balance in mind, and as well, just actually studying a text like the Tao Te Ching to the point that you remember and integrate it and can call to it on a whim, because for you to read it once and then never think of it again doesn't really do you a lot of good. So
yeah, I recommend. I love that you brought it up. It's such a great book. I love its teaching so much, and I try and embody them. And it's like you can get a copy 100 pages most.
It's a quick read. And
it's a quick read.
And a quick listen, too. I think you can get through it in less than an hour.
Fucking read it, listen to it. It's such a good philosophy to apply, your direct psychedelic experiences to and work with as like an integration tool. Yeah. And then also, take it into the ice bath, read 5 pages.
Totally.
Hell yeah, dude. All right, man. Well, this has been awesome.
Yep.
Always a pleasure to rap with you.
Thank you.
This is gonna be a new thing now.
I love it.
This is the new thing.
The Rainmaker.
Matt Z and the Rainmaker, baby. Timewheel. Shout out Element Kombucha Sheath. Yeah. Anything else, Matt?
Check out my podcast, Xian Archive, Xian Archive. I've got brilliant minds like Mike here that come on my show, and I just really interview them.
Who else?
Eric Godsey, as we mentioned before. My good friend Donnie, aka Savage, who's got a lot of insightful information to share about the psychedelic space.
You had a wizard on too recently.
Daniel Raphael. He's a wizard. He's a real wizard. Yeah. So if you want to hear what a real wizard has to say, he's episode 25. I have so many amazing guests. I'm so grateful to get to talk to people
man.
Like this.
You do. Yeah. Hell yeah. Can't wait to hop in and actually listen to that convo. I got it downloaded. Good one.
He talks about how he did Iboga and it kept him up for 3 days.
Oh, sweet. Yeah. I just had a conversation like that someone shared. Mm-hmm. Hey, man, the world is getting smaller. More and more of us are having these experiences. We're connected. We got podcasts. We got awesome companies. We got all kinds of things that are coming together. Support your local awesome dude, Matt Xian.
Thank you. Appreciate y'all support.
Much love, y'all.
Much
Peace. Hope you guys enjoyed that as much as I did. Always love chatting with Matt. If you want to support this show, please show your support if you like the show. Leave a 5-star rating review on Apple Podcasts. Go to the Patreon, become a Patreon member, be a part of the Inner Sanctum Discord server. Check out our masculine Primal Journey Alchemy experience happening in Boulder, Colorado, December 17th. The link is in the show notes. It's called Inward. And check out the sponsors. Check it all out. Love you guys. Till next time. Peace.